Have you ever wondered how we graze our cows, our animals on such small acreage and build pasture at the same time? We're going to show you how we do it today.
I stole it from Judy.
Last year was really bad, like super dry, in dire need of a solution. And so it was 112 degrees, no joke, legit 112 degrees. And we'd been in heat like that for 3 months. So naturally, Bo's like, hey, how about we take on an outdoor project with the vision that we would be drought proofing this property over the next 12 months. And we're at 9 months right now. And I can't describe the difference that we see. And I think a huge part of it was how we used this timeless fence to rotationally graze Goldie. And at that time we had different calves. So we've had Goldie and a calf for almost a full 9 months at this point. And this is the backbone of what we've used to rotate them. So this timeless fence runs a really long distance of our property. It's one straight division of our back pasture. So the fence goes in and it went up probably, I don't know, in an afternoon. And I think the secret to that is because the posts are very lightweight and they have pre-drilled holes. So there's no wrapping, there's no hooking up a harp like when you have T-posts, and they go in really quickly. And then we have this high tensile wire that's pretty industrial. Like this is robust. And for our cows, we just ran 2, but obviously if you had taller posts and goats, this could work with more strands. But this is what we did all the way down. And this follows something you can't see right now, which is an irrigation line. So this was our method of getting water from the front of our property. We're kind of a shotgun all the way to the back. And there might be some more permaculture ways of doing this, but what we really needed to think about was, if we don't get water to the back, how long can we last? How long can we use these animals realistically with the dredging back and forth and still like living here? So I think that sometimes we get really bogged down in, is this exactly following every single principle? And we don't think about like, are we enjoying the life that we're living? So the freedom to put in a water line that connects to our co-op water made this really accessible.
That's a black swallowtail. Isn't that awesome? Hello, little guy. You've been so hungry. Look at all the leaves you ate. Look at this little guy. You're so beautiful.
Isn't he so pretty?
What
That's
is that?
like our milkweed dupe. It's not actually milkweed, it just looks like it.
Is that turned into a butterfly?
Of course. Last year at this time, when we'd been in such high temps, we also went 4 months without rain. This year, we're recognizing just how beholden you are to the weather, whether you have irrigation or not. This is a result of good weather. This is a result of being in the middle of June and having had rain as recently as last week. Last year, by this point, we hadn't even had rain in 6 or 8 weeks, already into the summer. And then we went the rest of August. It was outrageous. So this fence runs a long distance all the way to our neighbor's adjoining fence. So what we do is run our polywire tape on the reel, and it connects to the high tensile when it's on. And then we just run it the length of a moderately sized paddock. And then the principle is you run a paddock and the next day a new paddock and the next day a new paddock. And what's happening in that paddock day by day is your cow is releasing waste. So you've got urine, you've got poo, and then they're also stomping down the things they don't want to eat and seed heads from things that are already growing there that you do want repeated. So the cow is bringing the fertilizer, and the cow is taking care of the weeds, and the cow is reseeding and establishing the desirable foliage you want growing. And then when you come back, if you've got 12 paddocks, let's say, you give that first paddock 12 days to rest. But what we've tried to do is give at least 6 to 8 weeks of rest before we come back to that first paddock. And the dramatic difference is shocking. You would be so surprised to see the diversity of growth in that one paddock just 8 weeks later.
So after a paddock is done and they eat what they want to and they leave what they don't want, then I come back with the tractor and I finish the job. So if you see back here, this is where they were probably maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm behind on mowing, but I was able to mow it about a week ago. Little baby grass is now starting to come back up a little bit and turning into the teenager grass, that's what they prefer.
Yeah.
Is they want to eat the baby grass. They
You
want
have
to
to keep them from it.
Yeah, you know, professional grazers, they call that they want to eat the ice cream.
It's sweet, it's lush, it's got so much flavor in it because it's all jam-packed in this little compact.
Yeah, they do not want the seed heads. Like whenever it gets, old grass, they don't, that's like their vegetables and they don't want to eat that.
But why did you mow? Like, because that sounds kind of silly. Like, hey, you've got cows, why would you bother mowing?
The reason why I come through and mow is because Goldie and BB, and that is the animals that we currently have. I think if we had some sheep, that they would eat a little bit more. Definitely if we had some goats, they would knock it all out.
I know, we'd have to be really diligent in where we put the goats.
Yeah, and we're raising the animals that we want to raise. So we know that we're having to do a little bit more work. But Goldie and BB are not eating these woody weeds. And what that does is that is growing really tall, kind of like a tree, and that's shading the ground for any of the Bermuda grass and any of the other warm season native grasses to come through. So it's kind of taking the sun's nutrients away from those smaller grasses. So I'm knocking those down and hopefully trying to get it before they go to seed.
Yeah, and I think that it's really important to note these cicadas are nothing like the Tennessee cicadas, but they're happy. Just like the weather, I think it's really important to know that some of these things are just gonna take time. A lot of our woody weeds, they're underground root systems, so they're coming up like trees would. They're not just seed heads. So like this grass is gonna go to seed, that's how it's gonna reproduce. But these are gonna be a real pain in the rear because you've got to take them out, either with animals like goats, like Bo was saying. But in general, the transformation we're seeing is at the dirt level. This is either a gopher mound or an old anthill. And what we're seeing right now is kind of like cracked earth, but we would see that everywhere. We would be able to, in our moderately dry, not even our worst months, we would be able to take a yardstick and lose it down one of these crags. So what we've seen by using Goldie and a calf is there is much more ground coverage. There was very bare bones right at the dirt level last year and for the last 5 years that we've lived here. So what we notice is a lot more diversity in the grasses that are coming up. Yes, there are still weeds, but this is gonna take time. And I think there's some sort of statistic that about 3 or 5 years into homesteading, a lot of the romance wears off and a lot of the hopes that you imagined to be established at that point haven't come to fruition. And so without the vision of long-term growth, of long-term sustainability, it is so easy to be discouraged when you see woody weeds like this. After you've been sweating down your legs, down your kneecaps, from your eyelids for a year, rotating these animals, and discouragement really does have room to take hold if we lose sight of the long-term vision. So the long-term vision is not where we are right now. This is 1 year into long-term vision. But when you see drone shots of our property from last summer to this summer, and then when we look again next year, the long-term vision is what keeps you pushing forward towards sustainability. And before we ever moved here, we just felt like the Lord was saying, take your time to learn the lessons, to steward the land well. And that is all that we are doing, is looking at this property and saying, how do we green a desert? How do we take time to establish topsoil? There's a horrifying statistic about how much topsoil America is losing every single year because we're overproducing in one spot in singular form. So instead, we want lush diversity, even on our little 7 acres. And we want to see what that looks like in the context of an entire ecosystem on your little acreage. It is one of those things that is so hopeful and so possible and so radically impossible in our own way that there are places where we just surrender to the weather. We make modifications where we can, like the irrigation line last year, that we haven't even had to use this year, with the exception of watering our animals. And then we take steps where we can to manage the land responsibly so that we see that growth, so that we see inch by inch from each season toward each year, and then that long-term goal comes to fruition.
This is what our entire property was last summer, everywhere. Now, we might get to that, but what we've never had is this over here. We've never had something like this.
Growing together.
Having to dig down to find it. And then
We've had this and this alone.
Yeah, so then
in the middle of
even
this
more
crack.
what we've never had. So you can see there's cracks, and this also is still a part that is still recovering from building the pond. But what we've never had is right here. So if you see this, if you notice, there's grass that can be grazed up top. Then there is mulch. There is dead, living mulch grass down deep. And what I see, I don't know if it reminds you of whenever we bought Goldie and we went to Art's farm.
Yeah, it was lush.
Yeah.
Even in the summer. And not with irrigation, just with land management.
So we're gonna go milk Goldie, and we're gonna move the cows over here and then hook it all up and show you how it works. We're kind of out of the rhythm because of the fact that we have,
Come on, let's go.
because
Good
we didn't
girl.
move them right away. Goldie,
Good girl.
Goldie.
Good girl.
Okay.
Yep, she's going.
That's where. Thank you for pooping. And then you can just reel it up. You gotta keep it tight, otherwise they'll jump over it. I know that no one has the kind of wall that we have right here, but honestly, we would be doing the exact same thing if we just had the normal barbed wire fence. The key is you divide with the timeless fence, and then you use the fence reels like Kelly's using to create each new paddock. Just tighten it up a little bit more. There you go, you're good.
That middle one looks pretty wobbly.
It'll stay. All right, so I got the water going from there. In here. Hello, BB. You happy? Okay, so this is where our electric fence system starts. I wish I had a better electric charger, but this one, it does the job. 60 miles, just got it at Tractor Supply. Plugs straight in, not doing solar. I like this because it has a more powerful charge. Plug it in here to the studio. Then we run it with an insulated wire over to the pig fence, which Bill is currently in. So this charges right here, takes this electric wire, attaches to this little extender, and then that runs all of the pig paddocks here in the forest. Then we have another insulated wire here that attaches to this little breakout three-way, and that wire heads through the forest, then out of the forest here, still following this wire, where it goes here to this little simple shutoff. If it's open, the fence is off. And then you close it, the fence is on. Then it goes from this insulated wire through all these weeds that I have to cut. And that's when these insulated wires go to these little nuts. And that's how it charges both of the high tensile wires for the timeless fence. So what are some of the troubleshooting that we need to do, because this system is far from perfect. It's not finished. That's kind of how we roll. 80% done, 100% good to go. We have to do a lot of clearing. These paddocks are not the size that I want them to be because of the fact that we still have a lot of thickets. So you can see how this paddock right here is way too big. Now what I am gonna do here in a little bit is I'm going to divide it up so that it's just a little bit smaller, but it's still very big because of the fact that there is this big giant thicket right there of oak and yaupon and mesquite. And so it's just easier to get the line through these little laneways there. Okay, because this paddock is too big for them, what I went ahead and did is I cut it in half so that they will not overgraze this side. Because really, even this side is pretty big just for these two cows. So I actually just took that line that was going all the way over to the wall and I just cut the corner on it. Sometimes I'll let that line go all the way to the wall or to the end of the fence on the other side of the property, and then I'll just take a third reel and I will cut it in half. And it worked perfectly because that side is attached to the high tensile wire, so this one will be charged. Something that I want to show you that I've never seen anywhere, and I don't know what it's called, this little guy. This is like a mini rebar post driver. I found it at a store in Waco. I don't know what it's called. I'm very sorry. I have no idea what it is. If you can find it online somewhere and put it in the comments, I would love to know what this is and to have a link for people, because I love this thing. Mainly because it is the easiest and fastest way that I have found to be able to hang a fence reel in the middle of nowhere. So it's easy. This is why I like this system, is I can go from the high tensile timeless fence all the way to this barbed wire fence or the barbed wire fence on the other side of my property. But whenever I need to cut something in half, I don't have a place to put this. Without this thing, I just have to put it on the ground, or I try to hang it somewhere on a tree or something, and then this grounds out. It makes the fence weak, and it just doesn't work. So you need to be able to get this off the ground, and that's why this thing fits perfectly. This is not sponsored. I have actually tried to get in touch with this company. I would love to work with them. They've not ever replied. Gallagher Fencing. I really like these fence reels. I think they look cool. I'm sure that there are other options, but I like this one. Also, all of our step-in posts are Gallagher. I like it. Another tactic that we like to do with this rotational grazing in this system is it's given us the opportunity to transition to square bales of hay for the cows, and that allows us to put hay in a location where we need it, where it needs some extra organic matter, bedding. We want the cows to work that location a little bit better because we are able to easily divide up the paddocks how we like it. It's crazy how this year, being the first year with the extra rain that we've gotten, as well as this system, I think we might be able to keep 2 milk cows here on the property. Super bummer that we lost Goldie's calf, Pumpkin, last year. Still stings thinking about that because we did want to keep her. But hopefully we'll be able to get Goldie pregnant again here soon, and then we can give it another shot.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We are learning along the homestead with you, so it's really fun to share the ideas that we've got and hear from all of you. If you want to join Bo on a pasture walk, we've got that happening on Patreon, where you can ask your questions and he'll walk us through our pasture and answer those for you. So I hope you're enjoying Patreon as much as we're enjoying producing for it. This has been really fun, and I'm just so stoked to share our homestead with you.
Thanks, y'all.